of those talented people as well.
Our next call comes from Mountain View, California, on our line for Republicans. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Thank you so much, and thank you for C-SPAN. I've been very, very concerned about this program, H1B program, because we have Zoe Lofgren, who actually started this whole process. And I can tell you this, I have worked for 3 Indian companies. I'm an IT person. And today, India takes out over $64 billion from our U.S. economy. And the truth is, the American companies such as Microsoft, Oracle, Sun, so forth, they set up their own training campuses in these countries primarily to favor the State Department's objectives. So here we have Indian companies in Silicon Valley, such as Wipro, Tata, Infosys, that actually are the holders of H1B visas, and of course it's exclusively Indians. And of course today in Silicon Valley we have another process going on, is the outsourcing and the influx of H1B visas to China. So today the American worker, the IT worker, has been pushed aside. The educational institutions do not have the proper curriculums, and so my question is, when is there ever going to be an emphasis on the reality that this program is harming America drastically, making us what I refer to as a beggar nation?
Well, I have confidence in America that we're not a beggar nation, and but you did touch on an important point that's been focused on in this debate, which is the role of Indian companies. There are, among the top users of H-1B visas, there are 4 or 5 of the top users, at least, are Indian companies, and that has certainly gotten a lot of attention. It turns out, as a percentage of the total H-1Bs used each year, there are about 12,000 visas used each year for new H-1Bs by the Indian companies, and while that comes to about 12% of the total H-1Bs, and 12,000 is not a lot for as far as the size of the U.S. economy. It comes out to less than 1/100th of 1%. I think that the outsourcing and the H-1Bs are actually need to be looked at. And that if you aren't going to allow companies to hire highly skilled people in the United States, you're going to have situations where they're going to end up either letting them go to foreign competitors or they're going to hire them in other countries. And I think that's what you need. That's what we need to look at. And I do agree that we need to do more about educating people in the United States. And the H-1B visa fees do go towards that in terms of providing scholarships and job training. For that, to help with that.
Our next call for Stuart Anderson comes from Willoughby, Ohio, on our line for Democrats.
Good morning, Mr. Anderson. Employers have been known to bring in Indian, mostly Indian workers, have the employees train them, and then the employers lay off the people that trained the Indian workers. And it kind of upsets me that you're sitting there telling us that this is a good thing for the United States, but I don't see it as a good thing for the United States, not when they're wanting to raise the number of H-1B visas from 65,000 to over 100,000, plus the fact that these people aren't they supposed to be leaving after a specific time, that they're not permanent workers?
Mr. Anderson?
All right. Well, these are actually temporary visas, and so people are able to come in for either a 3 to 6 year period. It's renewable after 3 years, and then if an employer and the employee are both interested, the person can be sponsored permanently. On the issue of layoffs, there are some specific safeguards in the law about this. For any company, it is against the law to what's called willfully underpay an H-1B visa holder and then use that person to displace an American. For the consulting companies, there's actually even a higher standard and that they can't 90 days before or after they cannot be displacing any American in a job. So while I know there's been news reports about this, I think what tends to happen in these situations is there's a consulting contract that a company has, and that contract expires. There ends up being a new consulting contract of some type. There may be some H1B visa holders on that new contract, and that's where there is a controversy about whether that's considered a layoff or not. I don't know. But we've asked actually members of Congress who've talked about this issue to provide us examples of this, and we really haven't. We haven't received those, but certainly some of these are in the news.
Let's move on to Chicago, and a listener who is here from Jordan. And sir or ma'am, are you on an H1B visa?
Yes, I came in here like 11 years ago, and my visa expired a long time, and like a year or less than a year I married, and we follow application and the paper for immigration law, and after that they accept my marriage, but they denied my file. I don't know why, and I don't know what can I do now after they denied my file, and I wish I can do something else. And I'm working here, and my wife, she's American citizen. She born here in the United States, and lots of stuff happening. But I get my lawyer, and my lawyer, he told me you have to go in the court, or you have to wait until immigration to send you paper or something like that. But what's your answer about these things?
Well, obviously it's hard for me to comment specifically on your case, but I do know it actually is very, very challenging. On our website, which is NFAP, www.nfap.com, we actually have a chart that's produced with Reason Magazine that talks about the legal immigration process, and it's actually very confusing and frustrating for many people who are trying to come here legally. As we talked about before, you're looking at a wait of about 6 to 10 years on employment-based visas. For if you're from India or China, for example, the waits are more on the 10-year side. So there is a lot of need for reform in this area, because obviously, one of the reasons the H1B visa ends up being criticized is that some people would prefer that people be able to be hired directly on green cards, which would allow them to more easily go to another employer, even though they do often go to other employers. But that just isn't happening right now in Congress. I mean, again, you're looking at low quotas on green cards and these extremely long waits, and that's one reason why the H-1B visa ends up being important. Otherwise, the individuals can't be hired in the U.S. at all.